Hi everybody, this is Pete from Old City Press and LetterpressInk.com. Today I want to talk about the difference between opaque white and transparent white and what it looks like when it's printed. So a lot of folks, whenever they print and they have to cut down ink, they'll use, the Pantone guide a lot of times will say transparent white. But a lot of blogs and stuff, people say to use opaque white versus transparent white. So we thought it'd be a kind of cool idea to kind of show the differences between the two, and then we even have some warm red to mix them together so you can see the end process. So what we did is we actually have 20 grams of transparent white and 20 grams of opaque white. And how I measure this, and everybody's got their own way of doing it, right? And whatever works for you is perfect. What I do is I have the scale and I turn it to grams, and then I use a lid from a 1 pound can. And that's about 20 grams for the lid. So then I will use my ink and I would squeeze in enough until it gets 20 grams of ink, if that's what you're going for. And I did that twice. I did one for the opaque, one for the transparent. And then what I did for the warm red is I just did 1 gram. So I'm gonna put a half a gram of warm red into 20 grams of transparent white and a half a gram of warm red into 20 grams of opaque white, just to see what they are and to see what the consistency is between them. Now, the Pantone guide, if you have a Pantone guide, it shows, different, like if we're trying to make a pink, for instance, it's going to say about 87% transparent white and then about 13% of warm red, right? So this is not like quite a 1-for-1 mix, but this is just how we do it. So another tip that we do is whenever you're mixing into a lighter color, right, like a transparent or an opaque, what works for me is instead of going from the transparent to the warm red, I go the other direction. So I go from warm red to transparent. That works for me, the way that we do it here. So the best way to do it is kind of test it out and see what consistency works for you overall. But we do recognize that if you're mixing up a lot of ink, it's better to do it from our standpoint in smaller batches because you have a little more control over it. One of the important things to know though, say if I put too much warm red into transparent and it's too red and it's not pink, it's more red. So your immediate reaction might be to add in more transparent. What I normally would do is I would cut that in half though. So the mixed transparent warm red, right? Instead of just mixing a bunch more transparent into that, I would cut that transparent warm red mix in half, mix transparent with that, right? And then then you'd have 2 different batches that way. Because it's much easier to make the ink darker, but it's harder to make it lighter. So just something to keep in mind if you're new at this. So all right, so what I did is I kind of split it in half here, and I have half gram on this side, half gram on this side. So what I'm even going to do is I'm going to actually cut these in half. So I'm just going to do about 1/4 gram on each one to start out with. All right, so and what I'm going to do here is just mix it in. Overall, we actually use, this is Plexiglass that we're mixing on, but you can also use regular glass. The reason why is it's much easier to kind of mix around with the ink knife, and it's easy to clean, and it's easy to see if there's anything on the glass. So if you had, a previous color like a black or something, and you're trying to put opaque on it, a little bit of a black would kind of change the tone of things. So that's just one of the ways we do that. That's why I use like a glass or Plexiglass. Super easy to clean too. And you can kind of see the best consistency of it too. So you can kind of see through. So like if, since letterpress ink is transparent, if there was a background to this, right? If we were on a white paper or like a yellow paper or something, the tone may look a little different because it's going to pull in that background. So you don't run into that. When you use a glass or a Plexiglass, you don't have that issue overall. So. All right, so this is starting to look like gum overall, a lot like bubble gum. Or even like a strawberry type pink on here. All right, that's good there, just to show you there. And then on this side, I'll take some pictures up close to show you this too. I have some pretty pictures on here too to show you what that look like though. All right, so this is the transparent white side that we're mixing with about 1/4 gram of red. This is what we did on both sides. 20 grams of transparent with about 1/4 gram red. You can see there is a solid difference between these. Just so, I mean, the camera may show a little bit of it, and I'll take some pictures up close, but you can definitely see the difference, at least in the way they look here. And when we print these, you'll be able to see if there's much more of a difference too. And just remember, the key is if you can always add more to it, right? So even I told you first I was going to put in, you know, a half a gram in each one, I recognize that that could be a pretty dominant amount, even though it seems like it's not, right? It seems like it should be, you know, compared to 5 grams compared to 20, or 0.5 grams, like a half gram compared to 20 grams should be not at all. But you could see though here that there's a huge difference between these two colors by using just, you know, the same amount of opaque and the same amount of transparent. And now, you know, okay, so like if you've been printing for a long time, you're gonna recognize, like, the first thing you're probably thinking is, well, you would never mix 20 grams of opaque white with, you know, a quarter gram of warm red, and you're gonna need a lot more transparent. That's kind of my point here. So what I'm trying to say is the transparent white, the reason why people use opaque white versus transparent white, one of the reasons, is because they're saying, like, you have to use 4 or 5 times as much transparent to get the same colors you would with an opaque white, right? So that's something to keep in mind with it too. And it does depend on a little bit of the color you're printing. If you're printing a lighter color, right, transparent white is very transparent, so you won't change the tone of it too much. If you use an opaque white with it, letterpress ink rubber-based ink is transparent, so it'll change the tone on that a little bit too. So here's what we have, right, between these two, and I'll take some pictures to show of you overall. So our next step is we're going to take this and move this to the press, run some prints. I'll show you that process, and then we're going to take some pictures up close. So, all right.